Good Wednesday morning, everybody. This is Grace, and in this video I'm going to talk about when you live in a dysfunctional environment. Now I'm doing a series, and I'm going to add this to a series on dysfunctional family, because the environment you live in plays a role, you know, whether it was where you grew up or where you live now or where you lived at the time of the narcissistic abuse. It plays a role often. And so I'm going to add it to that. But the thing about where you live, it can be if you live in the worst, in some place known as the worst, or like people used to say, and they still actually do say this, believe it or not, you live in the bad part of town, or the good part of town, you know, as if the town is split up, bad and good, you know, rich, poor is usually what it is. And people still judge, but they judge no matter which side you live on. Okay, and these are usually people who are narcissistic, who are bullies, you know, and they are trying to find some way to knock you down so they can lift themselves up by stepping on you, you know. They have a superiority complex, which a superiority complex is most often an inferiority complex. It's twisted, because what they're really doing is projecting their own inner insecurities, their shame, they don't want to see shame, on you. Okay, I've already said a mouthful and all that, because it is. It's so much of what makes up and what these narcissistic type people are about. They have a grandiose sense of self, and to keep that, even though they are not that, they usually do not have what it takes to be what they think that they are. And they try to tear other people down around them. And I can tell you a story it was about 3 years ago, I think it was about 3 years ago, and a woman living in a different suburb asked me which side of the suburb I live in, this suburb. And I knew why she was doing it. She actually, we both were applying for a job, and I don't know if it was after we got the job. I did not want the job as the director. I wanted the assistant job. She wound up being my boss. And she was around my age. And she asked me that one day. But she also made fun about my accent, which this is Texas. My accent's Texan. You see what I'm saying? But she would try to find anything, because one of the things about her was that she did not have what she needed to have that job, and I did. I was more qualified than she was for that job, and she knew it, and she was made aware of it. Now that was bad that they made her so aware of it, because it brought about this thing. But you know, they didn't break her. She was already this way, you know, to try to be, you know, having that sense of self and having those insecurities. And sometimes some things are just simply insecurities a person has, and they get over them. You know, that could be considered a narcissistic flea. And they call them, you know, when you learn bad behaviors from narcissists. And maybe she did need to get over it, but I got the feeling from her that she was a bit narcissistic, and it wasn't just a flea, you know. So anyway, but that is an example. And every time she would turn around, she would try to find some way to, you know, push me down, you know, so she could step up. Eventually, the bad thing was she was my boss, and it was a very short job, because oh my goodness, the dysfunction in that place, it was unbelievable. And the people who worked there, they were just like, they were so sick of it. And they had just fired all the most of the management and everything, so they were getting new management. Well, it wasn't the management that needed to be fired. I'll tell you that. I didn't know the original management, but yeah, I could see what was left over was the problem. But anyway, where was I going with this? She was in this position. I'll go back to this part. And I had to tell her something that happened. Well, she had that look on her face. You know how they have that look. Instead of her going and trying to, you know, say this is what's happening to me, she used it to try to get me fired. And I did get fired. And I informed them of what was happening. And I actually went, you know, did the thing with the state. And yes, I won. So, because they were wrong. And but it was bad. It was really bad. But she didn't want to take it from me, and she had that look. They call it, these days people call it narcissistic smirk, I just always called it sinister smile, sinister look to them, like they were wringing their hands, going ooh, you know. Yeah, but they're going to get something over, and she did. She didn't take up for me. She took up, you know, she wanted to get me out. And by the way, all those people that were in management no longer there, and it wasn't. And I found that out not long after that. So yeah, you know, sometimes karma bites them on the butt. Yeah. Anyway, I think I've done enough for this video. I'm going to add, see, I want to do this because I'm going to do this series, and I don't want to have to say these things both times, you know, anytime I do a series. So I'll probably link them at the end of any video I do. I'll talk to y'all later.